The following program is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. You can request podcast topics, enjoy exclusive RPG and video content, and more. Even just $1 a month gets you gameplay episodes a week early and makes you officially cool. Just like our Trash Elite, a guy from Ohio, and Rob, DG, Kitty Holbrook, Passion Killer 711, Drake Starstorm, and Destrucity KTL. Greetings and salutations. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by the boy.
Hello.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast. Today we are talking about the second season of Fallout. I forgot we talked about the first season of Fallout, and I meant to watch that episode to remember what the vibe was, but I forgot to do that too.
You ever forget? It happened to us.
Yeah. But before we get into that, we need to talk about what's crumping. What is crumping with you, my good sir?
Well, I watched Fallout. I don't know that I've done a lot. I mean, you know what? No, I tell a lie. Just today, a friend of mine purchased for me a game. There's a combination of like a factory simulator and Vampire Survivors. So that's going to show up on What's Crumpin' in the future, I would imagine. A lot.
What's the name of that game?
Oh, God, I have a factory simulator or some shit like that.
I'll see if I can find it really quick here. I have been watching really old cartoons.
Rogue Factory, thank you.
Rogue
you didn't find
Factory, spectacular. Freakazoid, being primary among them, still holds up. Some of the jokes don't land because I'm not 9, but otherwise solid, high quality stuff. Actually, I was probably more like 12 when Freakazoid happened, but I'm just checking out stuff I never really looked into that much. Gem and the Holograms, Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys. Yeah.
Way too good, Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys. The cast was unexpectedly star-studded.
Freakazoid's hard to track down. I have an inside fellow, a supplier, if you will. So it's not on anywhere streaming right now, so you kind of have to know where to look to find it, or be willing to shell out a fair chunk of change for the DVD collection. But man, rewatching it, so many of the voice cast were like people I've come to know since then, or knew at the time, but didn't realize I knew, because, you know.
I mean, what's the name of the documentary? Hey, It's That Voice?
Well, and I've usually been pretty good about that. It was like a special interest of mine from a young age. Since I watched Mask of the Phantasm and saw Mark Hamill's name in the credits and went, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, it's been a pretty good TV time, and I guess for you, a pretty good video game time, huh?
At least today, yes, sir.
All right.
Speaking of good video game times.
And good TV times. Fallout Season 2, we left off last season. Don't watch this if you haven't seen the first season. Hell, we're probably going to spoil some things about the second season.
Yeah, look, spoiler-free review. If that's what you came here for.
Yeah, sure.
We used to do that a lot more consistently. It's really fucking good. It's really good. Watch it.
So,
Even if you don't care about Fallout, watch the show.
I hate to do the mentioning better stuff on your stuff thing, but I was listening to the Geekenders podcast last week, and the guest they had on there was talking about how she's so conditioned since Game of Thrones to have a show drop the ball in the vein of
Game of Thrones.
Well, Game of Thrones, and what's that show about the foul-mouthed teenagers?
Oh, that's so
Stranger Things.
Oh, okay.
I want to say Babylon 5, and I know that's not right.
Old people.
It is in space. But like that fell off so hard for so many people. And so she's just sort of conditioned to be like, oh, a new season? How they're going to fuck this up? And I had a similar experience where the first couple episodes, I'm like, all right, but when does the other shoe drop? And like, we'd gotten halfway through the series and no shoes had dropped.
No, it was just good. Look, I'm a pessimist. I've made no secret of that. I always assume shit's gonna go bad. That way, when it doesn't, I can be pleasantly surprised. And boy howdy, was I pleasantly surprised here.
Yeah, this was just good TV. And the last season was just good TV. I think the last season was a little better, but, your mileage may vary, I guess.
I feel so... Look, a lot of the world is bad. Everyone has struggles in life. I feel so insanely blessed to have grown up in a world where all the shit I loved as a kid is now being made into absolute fucking peak entertainment.
What makes a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup taste so much better than any other peanut butter cup?
Well, it's their proprietary formulation for the peanut butter filling.
Interesting.
And that delicious Reese's chocolate.
I would love to try one someday. I hope that they will appear in my pocket instead of the phantom butt pooping above my head.
We've explained that joke on the podcast enough. You'll figure it out.
It's a David Willis comic strip. Look it up. As I was saying, at the end of last season, we saw good boy Hank heading off to New Vegas in a suit of power armor.
Pursued by Lucy and the Ghoul.
In a move that sent people everywhere going, yo, at their TVs.
A combination of, like, yo, and oh god, oh no, oh fuck.
Which, that was the ride you took reading Reddit while you watched this show. Can you indulge us in that?
Yes, one of my favorite things to do, and I do not watch the Geek Enders podcast, but I am told this is also Jesse Cox's favorite thing to do, is watch an episode of Fallout and then go immediately to all of the Fallout Reddits and read their threads on that episode.
Well, because we didn't watch it as it happened, so
I got to have the best of compilation of this to watch them episode by episode go, it's so over, we're so back, it's so over, we're so back, in sequence over and over and over again.
I'm not that bad. While I might have been like, all right, but when's the other shoe gonna drop? It wasn't specific stuff like, in the original Fallout, the super mutants are Kelly Green, where here they're more of a spring green, show ruined.
I'm not, this is gonna, thematically, this would be where I would go, well, no, it's not. Some of the people who are mad at the Fallout show are exactly that fucking guy. They're comic book guy from The Simpsons. They're actually so bad, comic book guy would go worst pedant ever. After their rant, I love those.
They're looking for a reason to be upset. I've been accused of that before, and no, I just can't turn off my media literacy. It either comes off or it isn't.
But fan reaction to that sort of thing aside, the show itself is a wonderful combination of paying respect and homaging the original material whilst not feeling like it was chained by it. They definitely made some changes, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. That's allowed. It's an adaptation. If you want the original lore, the game still exists. It's fine. But they definitely made some changes, but those changes were in the service of adaptation. They were in the service of making a story that's more entertaining to tell on television. And that's great. Basically all the decisions they made, I think, were pretty good.
I don't understand why people get so mad at adaptation, I guess. I mean, there's like a line, right? There's a line past which you're earnestly trying to adapt something and you're more just trying to get your stink on it.
And we've actually, in private, talked about this, and I think on the podcast mentioned a couple of times.
About other stuff.
About other franchises. There is a very obvious thread in adaptational works in Hollywood that the person making it is trying to put their spin on it, to get their shit in.
Here's an easy one I have. Tim Burton. I used to like Tim Burton a lot when I was a teenager and maybe in my early 20s. I recall liking the original Alice in Wonderland movie. I don't think I ever saw the second one. But when he did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, as much as he went back and like actually did the original Oompa Loompa songs, he also gave Willy Wonka this weird backstory that had nothing to do with anything and was just selling his own version of the fairy tale.
He wanted to make it a Tim Burton movie more than he wanted to make it a good adaptation.
Yeah.
And that's actually a really common thread in a lot of Hollywood adapted works, is they're more interested in putting their own spin on it, they're, as we have begun to phrase it, getting their stank on it, than making a good adaptation. Making a good adaptation doesn't necessarily mean making a slavish adaptation. It doesn't have to be a shot-for-shot remake. That's not what we mean. But there's an obvious difference between when you respect the source material and when you don't.
Watchmen's a great example. They made some changes that were...
And Alan Moore would disagree with us on this.
Well, he would disagree with us on a lot of things. But, you know, the changes they made were pretty much necessary for a film, and to not seem as off-the-wall bonkers as a space squid from nowhere actually is.
Quite intentionally so in the original material.
Yes. It just wouldn't have played the same way in a theater.
It wouldn't have tested well.
Yeah, there's other considerations when you're moving that much money around. And nowhere in Fallout does it feel like they've betrayed the vibe.
That's the more important thing. They've made some changes to the lore. There are things that are said and shown that are different from the source material. That's all right, because they still fit thematically. They still understand the vibe. Whereas other adaptations don't. They don't get what made the original one popular and good. They just get the aesthetic of it.
One of the things I can really lean on here is Lucy. Lucy always seems like such a fucking vault dweller.
Yes, and she has big Fallout protagonist energy.
Absolutely.
Honestly, all three of the people on the humans and Ghoul on the screen that aren't us right now all have Fallout protagonist energy of different Fallout games.
What's wrong with the dog?
He's dog meat. He's not a protagonist. He's dog meat. He's a sidekick. That's all I mean.
This isn't a visual medium, so you can't see me glaring at him, but...
Assume it. But yeah, like Lucy, she's got that bright, like, upbeat, like... They're different characters you play in a Fallout game.
Yeah.
And they stick so well into those niches that it almost feels intentional.
And it might be. They might just be trying really hard to keep that vibe. Even the stuff in the past really evokes the bizarre... I'm trying to think of the English word for this. Combination? That's terrible, but whatever. Of eras that is the parody that is the past of Fallout. The satire, I should
Yeah,
say.
because remember, it's a satirical series. It's not... It doesn't... The setting doesn't make sense if you look at it too closely, and that's okay.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason that culture would have remained prevalent for hundreds of years past its expiration date. That's not how culture works. But it's funny. Like, that's the joke.
And they do a great job. It feels right. The sections that take place before the Great War feel like they come from the culture that is being shown to us in the Fallout games through the film of Apocalypse. Because until, like, Fallout 4, we never saw anything happening before the war. It was always through that intermediary layer. And this show hits right. It feels like what that would have been like.
Fallout 3 had that DLC, but that was like a VR combat sim or something.
Yeah, and Fallout 3 also had Mothership Zeta, I forget what it's called,
Zeta.
where you saw a bunch of NPCs who were from before the war. But that's actually pretty common.
Yeah. People
People who were alive before the Great War. They pop up a lot.
Yeah, the other thing was the Vault, they kept cutting back to what was going on in the original Vaults for this series, that is to say. And the tone was so different. The juxtaposition of it really helped carry along something I probably wouldn't have cared about.
I will say the Vault plot line, that is to say Vaults 31, 32, and 33, in this season feel much less integrated and important. They feel much more separate from the important goings on than they did in the first season. That's not necessarily a bad thing. They're in vaults. Feeling separate is kind of the point. But sometimes it did become just sort of a soap opera.
A little bit, but like in that sort of quirky, deranged way.
Basically, it and this is a compliment. It's going to sound maybe not like one, but it is. It felt like we were watching what we would be reading in data entries, exploring a abandoned vault.
Yes, what an apt way to put that, and to tie it back into the way the series portrays itself. It was petty, one-upsmanship and idiots doing stupid things, and
so well designed in that way. The vaults 31, 32, and 33, the triangle, are designed in such a way, the Vault-Tec experiment there is naturally going to produce shitty little pencil-necked paper pushers.
Yeah, and it was all, I don't know, it felt like a nice refresher. They didn't focus on it over much.
Sometimes it was nice just to go back to see the tiny, unimportant problems of these people before we go back to the fate of the Mojave Wasteland.
Yeah, it was just really interesting. It was getting to see more parts of the world, and I think that's something that series are afforded more than movies. You have time to explore those small moments, even if it's just for like an episode or a couple of chunks of several episodes. You get to be like, what's going on with these weirdos? And it's part of why I'm grateful that Fallout is a series, because we would not get that if it was a movie. It would be a lot more, probably wouldn't be a tight 90, but it'd be about 2 hours, and it would be a lot more focused.
Yeah, look, there's a time for movies, there's a time for series. They're good at different things. I'm very glad Fallout's a series, for all the reasons you mentioned.
So, do we want to do the episode-by-episode rundown, my friend?
Oh, we absolutely can. A couple more general things I did want to.
Oh yeah, hit me.
I really like, and this is something that might come up in the episode by episode as well. Maximus is a great example of something you don't see a lot in fiction, in like portrayals in fiction, which is someone who isn't like super smart, but isn't portrayed in a condescending way. Maximus is just a guy, and that's it's done very sincerely, and I like that.
I would agree.
He's not got, protagonist hyper-competence. He's not got clever plans. He's just trying to fucking do the best he can, and he's got a heart of gold.
I like it as well because it really lends to the ensemble cast style of this narrative. Obviously, there are primary characters, some more so, some less so, but there really is, we follow the threads of like, I think 6 people as we watch this season, and the show does a good job of making them all feel different, all with their own different, drawbacks and skills and, problems. And I don't know, it feels better than it often does, even when you've got, take, for example, Guardians of the Galaxy, the first film, the first 2 films. Despite what is said in the third movie, those are Peter Quill's movies.
They are. I think the third movie is right. Emotionally, they're much more Rocket's than they are his. as a whole, but certainly the plot and main emotional story of the first movie definitely are Peter's.
And I mean, Peter's conflict with his dad really overrides anything that's going on.
And that's fair. That's fair.
And that's not a criticism. That's just a great example of how most franchises do ensemble casts these days.
There's an ensemble of supporting characters and then your lead.
Right.
Whereas, and Lucy is the lead in this series. I don't think that could be disputed.
One could argue it's the Ghoul.
You could. I feel like
it's not Maximus.
It's no one thinks it's Maximus. Bless him, but no. He's well, all right. So in that he had Cooper Howard, I think could be argued to be a lead of he's definitely the lead of the pre-war sections. The Ghoul in this season is more of a lead than he was in the first one.
I would agree with that.
I think that's a good change because it does make Lucy feel less like the lead and more like one part of a 3-part ensemble.
In that sense as well, I think Maximus has stepped back in this season from his role in the first season where he felt much more primary. And hell, the first half of this season, he feels more primary and then kind of falls off.
They do, as you said, they do a great job of making an ensemble feel nuanced.
Mm-hmm. What I'm saying should sound obvious. Yes, characters have different attributes and, benefits and drawbacks and so on and so forth. That's what characters are.
But it's an investment. It takes time, screen time, and time in creation to make that happen, and it should be noticed.
Yeah, there's a difference between me praising well-rounded characters in Suicide Squad and me praising well-rounded, deep characters that are given time to cook in the Fallout series.
Like, they got to do it, and they did a good job.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Episode by episode?
Sure. We'll see. We come back. We've got a lot of past stuff.
I think maybe just general overview of the arc of the season. The past stuff is all...
That's probably better, yeah.
Is all based around Cooper Howard unraveling the discovery he made at the end of last season that his wife plans on nuking everybody, and grappling with the implications of that, and his friend, Moldaver, who you may know from the first season, asking him to kill Robert House, who her conspiracy believes is planning on being the vehicle through which they nuke everybody. And then making discoveries and decisions to that effect, like following that thread where it leads.
Yeah, that's spread out over all 8 episodes of the season.
Yeah, and it's done fantastically. Even though you kind of you know where this leads in some ways, they surprise you in some ways, and they surprise all of the various angry fans in some ways that I think is beautiful.
It really adds texture, these past segments. A lot of times, flashbacks and things like that are just informative. Whereas, this isn't telling us much that we didn't know or couldn't have guessed or that matters, but it is sort of telling us a lot about why the Ghoul is how he is and exactly the way the world turned into what it is and why the vaults are the way they are. Things a Fallout fan would know, but it is providing that texture for people who aren't Fallout fans.
And not to mention, it's incredibly well acted and written.
Sure.
The whole show is, to be honest. The main overarching wasteland plot with Lucy and the Ghoul is them chasing down her dad and trying to stop whatever nefarious bullshit he's up to. And the Ghoul is trying to find his fucking family, as he says so often.
Which is really fascinating as well, because most of the past plot is making you wonder exactly why he wants to find his family so bad.
Yeah, why family and not daughter?
Right.
And they answer that question, and I think they answer it quite well.
Yeah, it's very compelling.
And then there's Maximus's side plot, where this is maybe one of the biggest departures from the previous lore, and maybe one of my only actual complaints about the show, is Maximus's side plot where the Brotherhood of Steel are fucking morons.
Well, they do have to kind of explain that, right? And there's a lot of that in Fallout, the original couple of games versus the Bethesda games, because there's such a different flavor from the more East Coast stuff that the Bethesda games are based on and the West Coast stuff that the original games are based on. So you have to answer the question, why is the Brotherhood of Steel so fucking weird? Why is it so different? Why is it so varied?
And the show Brotherhood is different from either of those two in some very interesting ways. And I don't dislike the faction on screen. I don't dislike the story they're telling. I think it's neat. It is different. And they are much goofier than the West Coast Brotherhood typically is in the games. Stupid is a fair thing to call the Brotherhood of Steel, but not like that. Not like frat boys.
At the same time, I think that's kind of like showing us a part of the Brotherhood that we just don't usually see. Now, I haven't played Fallout 2 for very long, so I can't speak to that specifically.
They're not a huge force in 2.
Okay, but I have played New Vegas, and I did play Fallout 1, and I definitely beat it. I got an ending. And the Brotherhood, you just don't really see them personally. I think the most you see them personally is in New Vegas.
Oh, you see a bunch of them in 1. You can join them.
Oh, okay. I did not do that on account of I don't like them. But
you can join them in 2 too, but I never got around to doing that side quest, I'm gonna be honest.
It makes sense that these guys are still soldiers, and they're still going to act how soldiers act, whether or not they're indoctrinated into their weird religion.
And a bunch of there's a bunch of soldiering that is dumb frat guys.
Yes, absolutely. That was exactly the point I was getting to. Not every soldier, obviously, but it's a very common.
Well, it's young, testosterone-filled guys given large weapons. There's kind of a specific behavior pattern that tends to crop up.
Yeah, and also, we've switched the narrative a bit, and of course, the time skip, I'm sure, helps, but we've switched the narrative a bit so that the Brotherhood aren't this force. They're instead portrayed as more human, so they can have more human elements inside of them, be a bit more fallible. And it's one of those things as well as, like, why haven't they already taken over? Why aren't the Brotherhood
There needs to be an explanation why they haven't won. Why haven't the Brotherhood won yet? If they are these hard-nosed, fucking, battle-hardened hard asses that so many Fallout fans would like to see the West Coast Brotherhood portrayed as, because they are portrayed as fairly hard-nosed motherfuckers in the original 2 games. Why haven't they just won? There needs to be a reason for that. And adaptation requires change. It's the only thing that at some point rubbed me the wrong way while watching the show, so I felt like it was fair to point out. I think overall it's a really interesting and fun story. That I really enjoy Maximus's little friend, his little ghoul friend.
Oh yeah,
I forget his name.
I'll scroll and find it here. Yeah, I think it does add some depth to the Brotherhood, and I've never been a fan. Not that I don't like them, but like I don't agree with them. I'm not interested in their doctrine.
Well, no, you shouldn't be. That's they're assholes.
Thaddeus is his name.
Thaddeus is great. Was there anything generally about the plots that you feel needs more?
Well, basically where we're led to at the end of the season, some medium spoiler talk here. Of course, a lot of the plot is parallel. It ends up being that the ghoul and his former self, I don't know why, Cooper, I don't know why I always forget his name, are searching for Mr. House to talk to Mr. House about, the situation.
MacGuffin from the first season.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of that with the ghoul, and there's Lucy confronting her father and trying to, make the hard decision about what to do with this maniac of a man, this polite 1950s style maniac.
Kyle MacLachlan is a fucking national treasure.
Oh god, he's so good in this show. One of the best villains I've seen in a long time. Probably since, ironically, talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. What's that guy's name? The High Evolutionary, right?
Yeah. I don't remember his name. I'm sorry.
Well, that's the character I was talking about.
I thought you were talking about trying to pull up the actor.
No. It could probably come to me, but he has a complicated name that I'm not super familiar with. Great actor, though.
But yeah, the High Evolutionary was hateable. Hank is lovable.
He's a lovable guy doing despicable things, whereas the High Evolutionary was a despicable guy doing despicable things. And of course, in their travels through to the Ghoul and Lucy to get to that point, they come across the Caesar's Legion.
And Caesar's Legion, through the events of the series, are once again preparing to assault Vegas. And through the events of the series, O ye of little faith, the new California Republic is here to answer.
And it really leaves you on a, well, what the fuck are they going to do next kind of...
Next season's fixing to be very big.
Very interesting, yeah.
There's a couple final wrap-up thoughts, unless you had something big you wanted to talk about that
I think the only thing I wanted to talk about was the Death Claws.
By all means.
I was so delighted to find out that they were a half practical effect because I thought they looked so incredible. And I was stunned that their CGI looked that good. You know, when Disney, one of the best CGI empires existent, doesn't always put up that good of an image. And it's partially because they are practical effects. The head and the hands, and I believe some parts of the body and or feet, depending on the scene, are animatronics on armatures, and sometimes even just puppets.
At the end of the day, man, sometimes to make it look real, the easiest way to do that is to just make it real.
And a lot of the times they just, like, I saw some interviews with Walton Goggins talking about how, you know, you think they wouldn't be a big deal because they're just puppets, but when it's in your face and screaming at you, a lot of those reactions are pulling from a real fear.
It's way easier to act scared at a giant head on an armature that looks horrifying and is fucking right in your face than it is a tennis ball. It's just helpful for your actor, okay?
And tonally overall, I thought that they really portrayed the people of the wasteland accurately. Every time they take us to civilization, it feels like I've stopped at a weird little town in a Fallout game, and I'm like, wow, these guys are all crazy.
These guys are, everyone in the wasteland's a crazy person. And the show implies there might be a reason for that, and I think that's very neat. So, some wrap-up thoughts. One, they started off on an excellent foot. They really, absolutely got my buy-in by starting us off with a fight at the Dino Delight Hotel to fucking Marty Robbins' Big Iron.
I mean, they basically were like, look, we're going to make some changes. We need to get the fanboys on board. What's the fastest way to do that? And that is the answer.
To the town of Algo Frida. I could have used more needle drops from New Vegas specifically. I can't imagine the rights to those songs are very expensive.
Yeah, it might just not have been the place.
Yeah, look, a bunch of it is very cowboy-y, and they don't... As much as this takes place in the Mojave Wasteland for the most part, it is still a general Fallout show, and a bunch of the New Vegas tracks do not fit super well in with the rest of the Fallout tracks.
I was glad to hear the Shot of Cocaine song, even though I prefer the Johnny Cash cover. I think that the needle drop for it was immaculate, and it really, it was delightful. It was not what I expected, and it was fun when I got there.
I thought it was also very good.
The needle drop during the party.
Moving on.
A party of anonymity, I will say. During that scene, what's the name of the song? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'll give you a second. There was one of the very many annoying Reddit people comments was complaining that the events of Fallout New Vegas, which they are bringing the setting of Fallout New Vegas to the screen here, are not being treated with sufficient care, because they make it so that essentially your character's decisions in Fallout New Vegas don't matter. Because no matter what ending you picked, that's not what's happening in Vegas. Because Fallout New Vegas has a multiple choice ending. So they didn't want to make one of them canon, because a bunch of the earlier Fallout games just have a canon ending. I think 4 and New Vegas are the only ones that don't. So they didn't want to pick a canon ending, so they made a situation such that it wouldn't matter which one you picked. The world has moved on from here, and shit has gone badly for many of the factions from the game. Do you think of that?
Uranium Fever.
Yes, thank you.
That scene was really good. And I find that, and I'm going to try to say this without being insulting, it seems a little egotistical. Because you have to know as the player that they can't pick all 3 or 4 or what have you. So they have to either choose one or none. And they're not going to choose one.
I don't think it's insulting to call that egotistical.
You're just sitting there waiting to see, was I right?
I think it is a little self-centered. You are not recognizing how respectful they are being, how gentle with your feelings they are being by not making you wrong, when they easily could have chosen to.
Yeah, I think that's the better way to go.
And more to the point, and it's going to be hard, and I'm sorry because this has been very complimentary to the show, and there may be some Fallout fans here because we talk about it a lot, and I'm very publicly a fan of the series. It's maybe hard for you to hear. If you didn't like that, I don't know that you understand the series you like so much. It is the correct thematical decision to make it so that no matter what the courier did, at the end of the day, shit went south, things fell apart, and strife and combat is still endemic throughout the wasteland. Because war never changes.